This video I'll be disassembling and inspecting, possibly repairing a Anderson Industries Delco Remy 1102333 12 volt generator, and this is for the 1963 Rambler American. And this is the actual original generator listed in the manual. So in the manual it says it would give you the option of at least two different types of alternators, as well as a generator. So you had overall three options for battery recharging. Unfortunately, this one is not working. It seems that it's not working. So the deal was that I had an alternator in the car before the rebuild. However, it was an alternator from 1964 Rambler American, and it didn't quite fit. So I had to make an adapter, and it worked fine. I still have it. And then finally I bought the correct alternator, 1963. But it seems to be the same as the one for 1964 in that it does not match the bracket that came with it. Rather, the bracket that was on the car. So I don't know if somebody put a different bracket in there and used some other alternator, or I don't know. So the problem is that I don't really want to use that bracket again because it's just too huge, and the belt doesn't quite, you need a really hard, long belt, and I really like the generator. So the bracket for it is not exactly the right one. I had to use a longer bolt that sticks around here, so you can possibly see it's too small. But anyways, like I said, I like the generator. So no diodes. It's made of steel rather than aluminum. It's completely closed on the sides, whereas the alternator is open. So I'm pretty sure the generators are much better built than alternators. They also have these little oily holes, which alternators don't have. So anyways, they do sometimes require a bit of maintenance. But all you'd have to normally do is replace brushes or just clean them, which I'm hoping is the case here. I like to have a pan and another pan there for storing bolts, sizes. I've already sort of loosened the bolts. Fortunately, the front bolt is usually the problem. It's usually the pain in the ass to remove. But fortunately, in my case, it was really easy. Somebody had already removed it. The seller on eBay had already done that, so I didn't have to do it again. But normally, if it's really tight, you'd have to just use an impact gun and then some pulley pullers to remove it. Alright, enough talk. Let's get going. 7/16 socket. I might have put too much oil in it and leaked everywhere. That is possible. The seals are bad or something like that. The bottom rod bolt is covered in oil. That can't be good. We got it fixed. For another rag. Here it is. These things are a lot easier in all aspects compared to alternators. A lot easier to assemble.
Un cubito de dosis que pega más. más larguito. Que está bonito.
Pero este está malo, amigo. Busca uno en la caja roja. Just gotta be really careful. That's exactly how these things go. A bunch of old grease here. Bearing on it is just fine. Let me grab a hammer. Sides. They're just quite hot. Smell like burnt. These things here, as usual, are very dirty. They're supposed to be nice and shiny because they're copper, but as you can see, they're black. It's not good in this case. It's cleaned up, and what I'd like to do as well is I'm going to put some electrical tape on these insulation here. Clean up the old grease. Take a look inside. The brushes are in good shape. Some of the insulation on the windings seems to not be in the best shape. Soil that leaked inside there. See, these things are massively thick. You have an idea. It's like let's say 8 millimeter thick, maybe. This little wire here is worrying me a little bit. Insulation on these things doesn't look good at all. I'm going to remove the field windings. So the insulation is coming off. I'd like to fix that. Why am I using wrenches? Wrenches are always the last resource. Some of the older 6-volt generators, it's actually not wire, it's they're actually copper flat bar. So here it's unfortunately wire, and it's not the thickest of wire, so you have to be very careful. I don't want to damage it. Here, this is the hardest part of the job now, removing these large flat heads here. I have to use a punch. I don't have a screwdriver that's this big, unfortunately. Well, I'm going to look one more place. These are common bolts, we can always replace them. Now it's moving. Go. Also at some of those, see just a second, the condition of the installation of these wires, not so good. That's why you always put anti-seize on bolts. Always, always, always. In every single bolt. No matter how big or small, always put anti-seize. A little trick, just put bolts a few threads in. I'll just tap on the bolts to unseize the metal steel shunts. Yes, that's what they're called. See, just some light tap, they'll come off. Might need a longer bolt, possibly. One. I'm actually going to mark these. Either a mark or probably a center punch. That way it's a small but permanent mark. I'm going to do this video in 2 parts, so it's not too long. See you in the second part.